David Wood is the International Crisis Group's senior analyst for Lebanon and joins me now from Beirut. So it's a pleasure having you on the program. Before getting into the psychology of all of this, are you, your friends, your family all physically okay at this point in time?
Thank you for having me. So I'm in a very fortunate position because for the past year, I've been living outside Beirut on the outskirts in what's considered to be a very safe village. And thankfully, all my friends and loved ones here are safe. On the other hand, until the past 2 weeks, I think there was still a view in Lebanon that this was a war between Israel and Hezbollah. But that sense that there are certain parts of the country that are unsafe and other parts that are safe has been really shaken. And I think it's important to note that while obviously communities aligned with Hezbollah have faced the brunt of very deadly, severe attacks from Israel, facing the brunt of displacement, there's enormous concern amongst all Lebanese communities, not just at what Israel has already done, but at what it also might do next.
There's barely enough time to really analyze the consequences of Hassan Nasrallah's killing, that more Hezbollah deaths were announced this weekend. The Israeli military says that the strike that killed him also killed, quote, more than 20 other terrorists of varying ranks. Is Hezbollah forever changed after these last few days?
So we need to note from the outset that Hezbollah is an institution that prides itself on having processes and succession plans in place. So, for example, when Abbas al-Musawi, Hassan Nasrallah's predecessor as the Secretary General of Hezbollah, was assassinated in 1992, Nasrallah was swiftly appointed. And the same thing I expect will happen this time, that Nasrallah's successor will be appointed quickly. And the same will apply to other senior leadership positions. But the problem is that Hezbollah has never faced the sheer number of body blows that its leadership has faced in the past 2 weeks. So, and as we know, there's the added complication that Hezbollah is facing difficulties in terms of coordinating and communicating, especially following the Israeli attacks on communications devices. So for all of these reasons, Hezbollah will have processes in place. They might just take a little while longer than usual to activate.
We heard a bit from the Lebanese Prime Minister Sunday morning, frankly, with a warning that security threats to his country would not be tolerated. Considering what many people think is his lack of power and control over the situation, is anyone likely to take that warning seriously?
Well, I think that you're right about this, is that, and it was noted by your correspondent before, Lebanese people don't have any expectations from their government because their government, even before this war, was performing at an incredibly low level, if at all. So we saw that when the displacement crisis became doubled effectively from the start of this week by Israel's expanded operations in civilian areas, that the government did not have an effective emergency response plan in place. So I don't think that necessarily the government is the strongest voice here, but that also creates a problem because there are some calls that are rising in Lebanon for Hezbollah, having faced these massive blows in recent weeks, for the Lebanese army to perhaps step in and confront Hezbollah and ask it to stand down. The problem, of course, is that this opens up a lot of worrying scenarios, given that Hezbollah, while weakened, is certainly not defeated and would resist these attempts, even from the domestic scene, almost certainly in an aggressive way.
David, new reporting coming in says that the US Pentagon is placing its forces on a heightened state of readiness to possibly deploy in the Middle East in the coming days. What do you think when you hear something like that?
I mean, it's incredibly concerning, and the United States has signaled throughout this conflict that it does not want a regional war and it does not want to be drawn into a regional war. And for this reason, I do wonder why the United States has not put more pressure on the parties, including Israel, which it provides with essential political and military support, to desist from escalating in Lebanon and instead to pursue a diplomatic agreement. And this is not just in the interests of preventing an already dire humanitarian situation in Lebanon from growing even worse, but also in preventing the United States itself from potentially being drawn into a ruinous regional war and putting boots on the ground in Lebanon, especially in the lead up to the United States presidential elections.
All right, David, we're sorry for what you're being put through at this moment, but thank you so much for joining us here on TRT World.